Welcome back. Let's talk about accountability, what it is, and how we achieve it, because it matters so much to the quality of our relationships at work and at home. When you think about it, accountability really means we each take ownership and responsibility for the outcomes of our choices. And those choices speak directly to our integrity and our trustworthiness. Accountability is the mirror that reflects our character. When we are leaders, we must accept accountability for our actions and behaviors. We also have the responsibility to ensure those we lead are accountable for their actions and behaviors. Here's a simple model I created to help us understand this dynamic. There are only 3 main factors to consider: expectations and learning, measurement and feedback, acknowledging performance. Here's what they mean. Expectations and learning. Everyone needs to know what is expected of them to succeed. That includes any learning needed to meet behavior, task, and result expectations. Measurement and feedback. Everyone needs to know how performance will be measured. People need to understand exactly how and when they will receive feedback. And finally, acknowledgement of performance. Everyone wants to know what will happen when their performance results meet or exceed expectations, as well as what will happen if they don't. This is a dynamic model, meaning that at any time there may be new information or changes in priorities or other factors that create a need to recalibrate expectations or metrics. When this happens, the leader and/or the employee would revisit the cycle and redefine what success looks like in that person's role. I'll give you a real example. I had a bright, hardworking staff member who was failing miserably at his job. He couldn't meet his metrics, and I kept giving him bad news when acknowledging his performance. In our regular expectations and learning discussion, he finally told me that he really wanted to do a very different job, something he loved doing, would even volunteer to do whenever he had the chance. After a lot of exploring and brainstorming, I assigned him on an interim basis to a job that fit his needs and expectations. This story has a happy ending. He took it upon himself to learn what he needed to learn for the new role, and his performance soared. He was permanently assigned to the job and even got a bonus a year later. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned to listen carefully to my staff members' expectations and to look harder for root causes behind performance problems. Right now, I'd like you to think about one person in your life, at work or at home, where your expectations and that person's behaviors and/or actions are not matching up. Please take a walk around the accountability circle and ask yourself these questions. Have we had an explicit conversation about what I expect and what he or she expects? Have we talked about how we would measure our expectations? And have I ever given her or him constructive feedback about those results? And third, in what ways have I acknowledged his or her performance? Have I acknowledged performance, good or bad, without talking about the other 2 steps? The second half of this exercise is this. I'd like you to ask yourself if there is any place in your life where you think you haven't kept your promises to someone else. Before you beat yourself up about that, back up and see if any of the 3 steps in our model were in play. In other words, were the expectations clear? Did you know what success looked like? Did you get any feedback? And did you listen to it if you did? Okay, you get the idea. And that means you're ready to use the model in all parts of your life if you choose to do so. You can delve into each step in the accountability model much more deeply by reviewing the materials I've included for this session. Even if you never go any deeper, you now have a 3-part accountability model. It's simple and it's easy to use. It is important to the success of our teams and our organizations that everyone takes responsibility to hold themselves accountable to their promises. That's trust, and that's integrity. Before we leave this session, I would like to chat with you a bit about recognition. Recognition is the simple act of acknowledging, approving, or appreciating a behavior, an action, a service, or an attitude. Anytime you treat someone like a worthwhile human being can be considered recognition. You can give recognition to a staff member, a supervisor, a colleague, customer, family member, or friend. In my experience, people in general tend to focus on what is not working rather than what is working. I understand that trap, and I urge you to stay out of it. People, young and old, from any culture, anywhere, respond far more readily to positive reinforcement, or even what you'd like them to do, than negative reinforcement, or what you want them to stop doing. Of course, it has to be genuine, specific, and timely. Nevertheless, I urge you to do it and do it often when it is deserved. I worked with a shop supervisor once who proudly told me he never thanked anyone. He said, and I quote, "They get a paycheck every 2 weeks. That should be thanks enough." Well, I very much disagree. I told him that if that's all the thanks his staff ever heard from him, all he would get would be the minimum effort they could get away with, never above and beyond. That concept had never occurred to him. You can take out a piece of paper and pen if you like, because I'd like you to take a moment and ask yourself 2 questions. 1. When was the last time someone genuinely thanked you in some way for something? What was it for? When was the last time you thanked someone in your life for something? What was it for? Okay, now please answer these questions. How did each of those interactions feel to you? How much time did they take? What did they cost? Here are 6 recognition facts. Recognition builds trust. Recognition is an investment in your most valuable resource, and it improves performance. People need appreciation to be happy in their jobs. It's everyone's responsibility, and especially the leaders. One size does not fit all. People are motivated differently at different times by different things. And managers think they give it 90% of the time, but staff think they get recognized 10% of the time. Here are 6 barriers to giving recognition. People think it takes too much time. It costs money. It will make staff soft. It's only good for superstars and highly extraordinary results. It's already understood and doesn't need to be openly stated. And finally, people who have never received it often don't know how to give it. Here are 6 principles for giving recognition well. Be specific. What did they do? Be timely. Soon after they did it. Be sincere, from the heart, and use I statements. Be personal. Make sure it meets the needs of the receiver, not the giver. Be proportional. The recognition should match what they did. And do it often, enough so it's not a foreign concept. There are so many low and no-cost ideas for recognition in this session's materials, so help yourself. And you don't have to say thank you. You already did that by signing up for our course. Next up, we're going to delve into the topic of leadership courage for yourself, your teams, and your entire organization. I know from decades of experience it takes courage to lead people where they may not know they need to go. See you soon.